of the 2016 FIM Ice Speedway World Championship comes to the Netherlands. The International Motorbike Centre of Assen plays host to the world's 16 best riders, as it has every year since 1973. The championship chase closed up at round 3 in Berlin. Separated by 9 points coming into the German capital, the top 4 in the world were covered by just 2 points after 2 frantic days of action. Dmitry Kometsevich made the most progress from 4th in the standings, dropping just 1 point on day 1 to haul himself back into the overall race. Daniil Ivanov inflicted Kometsevich's only defeat as he found his form on the series return to Western Europe and went unbeaten through the qualifying heats. Ivanov looked set for a second consecutive 21-point maximum as he led the final until the last bend, when he crashed out and dropped 3 vital points. Dmitry Koltakov would lead into day 2, his margin cut, though, to just 3. Ivanov and Kometsevich were again the riders to watch on day 2, racking up 7 heat victories between them and providing some of the best spectacle as well. Ivanov dropped points in only 2 races all afternoon, including an uncharacteristic blip in Heat 13, a race that saw Dmitry Koltakov return to the top of the leaderboard in Berlin. But Koltakov fell in his semi-final, gifting his main championship rivals 2 races in hand and a golden opportunity to make up ground in the title race. Igor Kononov almost failed to capitalise, as it took him the best part of 4 laps to pass Franz Zorn and book his place in the final. But he made no mistake in the biggest race of the day, a perfect bend 2 switchback giving him the meeting victory, and 5 points back on Koltakov from his final 2 rides. And with Ivanov and Kometsevich joining him on the podium, the championship was left perfectly poised. Dmitry Koltakov made the century mark at the top of the leaderboard, but with 2 rounds remaining, Ivanov, Kononov and Kometsevich all drew to within 2 points of the top spot. Separate races further down the order for 5th, 7th and a place in the top 10. The legendary Per-Olof Sorenius sealed his first ever World Championship at Assen in 1995. In his first season out of International Ice Speedway, he attends this year in a different capacity, as mentor to Ove Ledström. I've known Ove since he was a young boy out on the lakes in Sweden, watching us riding. Ice Speedway was always his focus, and he's very serious about it. Now that he's in the World Championship, he's training hard. He's already very good, so he'll go a long way.
Väldigt seriös och vill jobba med grejerna själv, och det är ingen kille tidigare som jag har varit med om som är så seriös och jobbar med allting.
Det har ju varit, Posa har ju varit en stor idol liksom ända sedan jag...
When I came into the sport as a child, Posa was the big idol, and he's been my hero all my life. So I'm honoured to have him now in the team and helping. He has such good knowledge about so many things in the sport, so he's very good to have around. I feel so much safer in his hands. You can't even imagine how much he's able to help. The young Swedish riders now are very fast. 5 or 6 are particularly strong, so I'd have some trouble beating them now. I believe that Ove can be the next world champion, but he'll have to go to Russia for training there early each season. I did this with Stefan Svensson regularly in the past, and until 10 years ago we were invited by the Russian Federation. Now it's more difficult to go over, particularly in terms of cost, but I hope he can go there next season.
Vi hoppas ju kunna komma tillbaka med och bättre vintrar framför allt.
Poser won his last World Championship race in 2012, but since then a number of young Swedes have emerged to fill his position, despite the precarious condition of the sport in his home country. We have a lot of challenges in Sweden at the moment. The winters are getting worse and the number of riders is going down as well. We have 6 or 7 good riders, but we need more to give us a stronger top end. Ice Speedway has given me many friends, in Russia and here in Europe, and so many good memories, it's difficult even to recall them all. I hope to be in the sport for some more years, help Ove and see what he can do.
Jag hoppas jag kan vara med några år till på det här och hjälpa framförallt Ove.
It's an emotional last visit to the Stadion de Bontewever, scheduled for demolition after the 2016 event. Several thousand spectators are in attendance to give the iconic venue a fitting send-off 43 years after the first event in the arena. The 15 permanent riders remain unchanged from Berlin. Max Niedermayer continuing in his reserve role, replacing Manfred Siefter. René Stellingwerff crashed out before the first heat in Assen 2015, but returns to the ice as the wildcard a year later. Daniil Ivanov and Dmitry Koltakov traded blows in the opening 2 races of the day, each emerging victorious as Ivanov took the lead of the championship by 2 points following Heat 1, only for Koltakov to return the compliment a race later. Behind the Russian Heat 2 winner, the battle was over the single point. Gunther Bauer took a comfortable 2nd place ahead of Daniel Henderson, who came past Max Niedermayer at the end of lap 1 for 3rd. 3 of the top 4 in the championship standings won their opening rides. Dmitry Kometsevich beat Egor Mishkovets for victory in Heat 3, as the championship gap was maintained between the leaders at just 2 points. Igor Kononov was the first of the top Russians to slip up, as he missed out on victory despite leading in the early stages of Heat 4. A dramatic crash and an inevitable disqualification left him with ground to make up, with his rivals all claiming major points in round 1 of the heats. In the restaging, Franz Zorn capitalised to take an important win, the Austrian maintaining his status as top European by putting in defeat of Ove Ledstrom. Three of the top 4 in the title race won their opening ride in Assen. Stefan Svensson and Igor Kononov were the biggest names outside of the top 8 after the opening round of heat races. Dmitry Kometsevich took advantage of a head-to-head with Dmitry Koltakov to narrow his rival's lead at the top of the championship to just a single point. Kometsevich won Heat 5, with Koltakov suffering his first defeat of the day. Daniel Henderson had a promising start to the meeting and was the best-ranked Swede after a 2nd place in his round 2 heat race. Jan Klotowski had initially held the position before he made a mistake and succumbed to Henderson's inside attack at the end of lap 1. Daniil Ivanov was one of 3 riders unbeaten after 2 rounds of heat races, following victories for Kometsevich in Heat 5 and Zorn in Heat 6. But the Russian had to work hard for his 2nd checkered flag after Igor Kononov made a strong start to his post-crash recovery. Ivanov risked the inside attack from Egor Mishkovets as he took a bold outside line and rounded his rival on the exit of the final turn. Stefan Svensson was the clear favourite for Heat 8, but the Swede failed to add to his round 1 points total after a tough first bend disqualification in Heat 8. Both Svensson and wildcard René Stellingwerff went down as the pair touched, with Svensson the rider to sit out the restaging. Stellingwerff failed to make an impact at the second attempt, but scored his first points of the afternoon behind Max Niedermayer and heat winner Stefan Pletschaka. The German's surprise race victory moved him inside the top 8 on 4, with Niklas Svensson and Günther Bauer both failing to score in round 2 and slipping out of the provisional qualification positions. Further back, Igor Kononov and Max Niedermayer both scored their first points of the meeting in round 2, but remained outside of the qualification zone after 2 rides. Egor Miškovec took his first race victory of the meeting as he grabbed the whole shot from the outside gate in Heat 9. The opening lap saw an explosive struggle for second place, with Stefan Pletschaka relegated to last and Daniel Henderson pushing through to second. But Pletschaka would inherit an additional point for his third ride in succession as Niklas Svensson went down off turn 2 and suffered a second non-scoring ride following disqualification. Igor Kononov was restricted to just 4 points from 3 rides and remained outside of the top 8 after his round 3 heat. Dmitry Koltakov took Heat 10 and returned to winning ways, while Stefan Svensson returned to the scoreboard against Antiako at the back. 3 unbeaten riders went head-to-head in Heat 11, and it was Dmitry Komentsevich who came out on top. Franz Zorn had the perfect view from third as Daniil Ivanov attempted to find a way to the front, but his attack proved fruitless and Komentsevich gained a valuable championship point. Ove Ledstrom boosted his semi-final hopes with a first race victory at the close of round 3. Günther Bauer moved on to 4 points from 3, with Jan Kotowski and René Stellingwerff falling adrift of the pack in the day's leaderboard. Egor Miškovec and Ove Ledstrom took their first race victories of the day in round 3 to move closer to the semi-finals. 4 Western Europeans sat inside the top 8, but with Igor Kononov closing to within a point of the top positions. Günther Bauer also remained in touch, with a 2-point gap behind the top 10 and the also-rans. Franz Zorn became the first rider to book his semi-final place, with a third race victory of the meeting that moved him onto a 10-point tally. Behind him, Bauer took 2 important points to move provisionally inside the top 8. A difficult day for father and son duo Niklas and Stefan Svensson as they again occupied the minor positions. Round 3 heat winners Ove Ledstrom and Egor Miškovec went head-to-head in Heat 14, and it was the faster starting Swede who took the early lead. The Russian's progress was hampered by lap 1 traffic as he worked his way past Max Niedermayer and Antiako to challenge. By the 4th lap, Miškovec was on Ledstrom's tail and swept to the outside for one of his typical last bend lunges. Ledstrom moved to cover, but moved too late, clashing with the Russian as he lost the position and then spiralling to the ground after the race. The championship lead was up for grabs in Heat 15 when Daniil Ivanov met Dmitry Koltakov. Ivanov duly took the race victory to level the standings at 110 apiece, and Dmitry Komentsevich still holding a ride in hand. Komitsevic made it a three-way tie for the lead of the title race as he maintained his unbeaten Assen run with Heat 16 victory. With just 6 points from 4 rides, Igor Kononov remained outside of the top 8 in Assen and had dropped 6 points down on the front-running trio in the overall race. Two West European riders had booked their semi-final spaces, with another 2 in line to join them after 4 completed rounds of heats. With 4 riders tied on 6, the battle for the last qualification positions would go down to the final round of heat races. Under pressure and needing 3 points to guarantee progression, Igor Kononov took his first race victory of the meeting to seal a place in the semi-finals. The Russians' 3 Heat 17 contenders had just 7 points between them coming into their round 5 race, and it was Niklas Svensson who won the battle for the minor placings. Günther Bauer and Stefan Pletschakka were now in direct competition for the last qualification space. The reigning German champion held a crucial second position in Heat 18 until the final lap, when he ran too defensive into the pits turn, left a gap up the inside into turn 4, and Pletschakka struck to claim 2 decisive points. Daniel Henderson was left needing an unlikely win from Heat 19 to better Pletschakka's 8-point finishing total, but instead he was one of 2 disqualified riders as he failed to finish, and his fellow countryman Stefan Svensson suffered a last bend fall from second. Dmitry Koltakov provided the entertainment in Heat 20 after missing the start from the inside gate. Franz Zorn held the early race lead, Egor Mishkovets in tow until Koltakov burst through to second on the pits bend. The reigning champion then fired past Zorn up the inside on lap 2 to hit the front and take a 3rd win of the afternoon. Under intense pressure, Zorn sealed an impressive top 4 seeding space to the semi-finals by holding back Mishkovets to the flag. The young Russian's single point moved him onto a double-figure tally. Igor Kononov moved into the top 8 for the first time in the 5th round of heat races to snatch a semi-final space. Stefan Pletschakka provided the biggest surprise of the qualifiers, his Heat 18 pass on Günther Bauer, giving him the verdict ahead of his fellow countryman. Separated by 2 points coming into Assen, Dmitry Komitsevic, Daniil Ivanov and Dmitry Koltakov are all now tied on 113 championship points at the top of the standings, coming into the final stages. Dmitry Komitsevic goes off the inside gate in red, unbeaten in the heat. Franz Zorn off gate 2 in blue. The 4th seed to the semi-finals, 12 points to his name. Ove Ledstrom goes off gate 3, his 6th semi-final appearance of the season. And Igor Kononov completes the lineup off the outside. Semi-final 1 gets underway with a fast start from inside and out. It's Komitsevic who gets there first. Zorn struggling to stay on the surface as he almost slips inside the red line but manages to hold on to 3rd. Komitsevic it is who leads, blocking out Kononov's top bend outside lunge as he leads in the early stages. Second place still with Igor Kononov then looking up to the bales, but Komitsevic seems to have it covered. Zorn slipping back down the back straight, snapping a tear off as his face is filled with ice from the front-running duo. The race is over first position as it stands. Doesn't look like any change in the 2 qualifiers is going to be forthcoming. It's going to be Komitsevic looking over his shoulder and Igor Kononov in second place who march on at the expense of Franz Zorn who sits in 3rd, and Ove Ledstrom still yet to finish in the top 3 in a semi-final, tailed some way off out the back. Igor Kononov has 6 championship points to recover after 4 defeats and just 1 race win in the heat stages. He's not going to notch a race victory here, but he will move through to the final along with Dmitry Komitsevic. Franz Zorn taking 3rd, not too far behind the front-running Russians, and Ove Ledstrom still clearly has a lot to learn. He's eliminated some way adrift out at the back, so Komitsevic and Kononov march on from semi-final number 1. Semi-final 2, off the inside gate in red, it's Daniil Ivanov, beaten just once during the heat stages. Dmitry Koltakov goes off gate 2, beaten by Ivanov when the 2 met in heat 15. Egor Mishkovets goes off gate 3 in white, and off the outside start position in yellow, it's Stefan Pletschaka. Mishkovets it is who makes the fastest start. He's bobbles though coming out of turn 2, and Ivanov and Koltagov don't need a second invitation. Straight through and into the provisional qualification places. It's Ivanov who leads at the end of the opening lap then, with Dmitry Koltagov looking slightly wider back into turn number 1. He's going to attempt to square off the turn, but Ivanov has the pace. Close battle between these two, barely a tyre's width between them as they head back into the pits turn, and Koltagov's going to cut back, coming off turn 4 to come through at the half race distance. Koltagov it is who now leads. Ivanov looking back up to the outside. Koltagov covers it with a brilliant block pass and then holds it up coming out of the turn to stop Ivanov in his tracks. Ivanov, the former world champion, is the man on the move here. Into the final lap, the faster of the two seemingly, but Koltagov is making the blocks. And Ivanov has now switched conservatively back to the inside. Seems as though he's going to have to settle for second here. Koltagov then to the tight line around the final 2 turns to take the checkered flag. Ivanov it is who gets second. Third with Egor Mishkovets. His trend of failing to beat any of the other Russians continues through the semi-final stages. And a baptism of fire for Stefan Pletschaka against 3 Russian riders in the second semi-final. Today's 4 finalists have comprised the top 4 in each of the last 4 meetings here in Assen. Dmitry Komitsevich goes off the inside gate in red. Last a winner here back in 2012 when he beat Nikolai Krasnikov to the trophy. Dmitry Koltagov goes off gate 2, something of a track specialist. Dropped only 1 point over 2 meetings here last year. Gate 3 in white, Daniil Ivanov, the day 2 winner in 2015 around this circuit. And Igor Kononov goes off the outside gate in yellow. Fairly level break, but it's Komitsevich who takes the inside advantage to lead them around turns 1 and 2, and Igor Kononov loses it coming off turn 2 and looks down at his machine in frustration. He knows he's out of it. It's Komitsevich then who leads at the end of the opening lap, lifting down the home straight under pressure from Koltagov in second and Ivanov in third. Koltagov made his move during the semi-final stages beautifully. He's going to try and pull the same trick in the final, running straight up to the outside, trying to get the momentum coming off the turns. Komitsevich seems to have the measure of his rival though here, riding well coming into the bends and then just holding the outside line coming off the turns. Ivanov from third position looking over his shoulder. Igor Kononov is nowhere to be found, and the winner last time out in Berlin is only going to take 4th position here and probably will find himself disqualified after lunging towards the inside curb on the first 2 turns of lap 1. Komitsevich heading towards the checkered flag. Koltagov looking to the inside coming off the final turn, fairly close in the latter stages, but it's Komitsevich who celebrates, punching the air with delight as he wins in Assen. Dmitry Komitsevich takes his first maximum of the season then, and a 3rd meeting victory of 2016. Meanwhile, Igor Kononov suffers his worst meeting of the season and drops back from the series leaders. Today wasn't my best day, but 3rd place on the podium is still a good result. My rivals were just stronger than me in the end, but we still have tomorrow and of course Insel, so hopefully I will make up for it then.
Не такой большой отрыв от первого-второго места. Я думаю, все реально, все возможно догнать и обогнать.
I'm happy how today went, but unfortunately I did drop 3 points, 2 in the heats and 1 in the final. In the end I switched to the second bike, which went a bit better, so hopefully tomorrow I can reach the top position.
Это очень тяжело, мы близки все первая тройка, 4 даже спортсмена. Близки по очкам между собой, но будем делать все возможное. Спасибо моей команде.
I'm really happy to win again today, but it's not the end. We still have 3 more rounds. I'm very grateful to my mechanics, my trainers, and the people who supported me to this victory.
Выхожу на первую позицию, и для меня еще впереди 3 этапа, я буду стараться. Большое спасибо механикам, тренерам, кто за меня болел.
Igor Kononov drops 10 points back from the leaders after a disappointing day, outscored by Franz Zorn, who closes 2 points on Egor Mishkovets in the race for 5th. Victory for Dmitry Komitsevich makes him the new championship leader, but by just a point over Dmitry Koltagov, and with Daniil Ivanov just 2 points further back. All but one of the current World Championship stars ride on equipment from Thibaut Motorparts, a supplier from a small town in the Netherlands with a unique history tied to its founder Tita Bootsman, who passed away back in 2012.
In
1985, we had a very severe winter here in the Netherlands, and Tita started out on the ice. We had some races over here on motocross bikes on the lakes. His interest then developed in ice speedway, and he bought his first bike. But he wasn't satisfied with the geometry of the chassis, so he started developing his own frame. In 1996, he finished his first frame and started racing with it. I have been involved in ice speedway since 2000, first as a mechanic for Tita, and then more recently working with him selling frames and parts. 16 years later, I'm still in the ice speedway world.
Ben ik ook in de verkoop van de frames terechtgekomen. En na het overlijden van Tita doen we samen met een groep vrienden de verkoop van de frames.
After the passing of Tita, we sat together as a group of friends and we decided that we had to continue with building and selling the frames to ensure that ice speedway riders still have the best frames available. We've also continued to develop the latest prototype which Tita was building, so the sport continues with his frames.
En deze te beschikbaar stellen aan rijders in het ijsspeedway.
It's a beautiful thing to see world champions reach their titles on a Thibaut frame. One of the most successful riders in the world, Nikolai Krasnikov, reached 8 championships on a frame made in such a small country as the Netherlands. When we walk around the pits, we're humbled that so many riders are still riding on Tita's frames. It's like our friend is still alive in his work. Tita developed not only the frame, but also improved the suspension and changed the angle of the front forks within the sport. But the biggest progress he made was with the rigidity of the frame. It was a revolution, and it's still the best, even after 20 years. Now we're on the brink of something new, which we believe will make another step forward in ice speedway.
We zijn ontzettend trots dat wij het werk voor Tita voort mogen zetten en dat heeft op...
4 very separate battles have emerged in the 2016 title race. The lesser lights are racing for a place in the top 10, where Gunther Bauer and Niklas Svensson hold sway, with Daniel Henderson and Jan Klotowski some way adrift. Ove Ledstrom, meanwhile, outscored Stefan Svensson by 7 points on day 1 in Assen to move back above the Swede in their season-long tussle over 7th. Franz Zorn has gradually eaten 9 points into the early season advantage of Egor Mishkovets as he battles to overhaul the series newcomer for 5th. After a strong start to the season, the Russian youngster has been unable to maintain his scoring. I started the season very well in Krasnogorsk, but since then the rounds have been outside of Russia. It's my first time in another country, and the tracks here are very different. So it's been more difficult since then, because I'm still getting used to these circuits. Meanwhile, in the front-running battle, Igor Kononov dropped a full 10 points back from the championship lead, following a heavy day 1 crash. It wasn't too bad really, and thankfully I was able to continue racing. The point situation is now really difficult, so I'll try to get back to the same level as I was before my crash. Yesterday was unlucky, but today I have a new chance, and I'll do my best to move forward.
Трудно будет, конечно, не спорю, но будем кататься, стараться.
While Kononov struggled on the artificial ice surface, Daniil Ivanov took advantage to move into a clear 3rd position, just 3 points behind the new championship leader. Dmitry Koltsakov dropped to 2nd after 3 consecutive defeats at the hand of Dmitry Kometsevich, who dropped just 4 points in 3 Western European meetings, coming into day 2 in Assen. Three of the top 4 in the championship standings opened the weekend's 2nd meeting with a race victory. Daniil Ivanov moved level with Dmitry Kometsevich in the overall standings after his Heat 1 win over Max Niedermeyer and Daniel Henderson.
Auf Rang 2.
Igor Kononov followed with only his second win of the weekend as he took the checkered flag in Heat 2. Stefan Svensson held off Day 1 semi-finalist Stefan Pletschaka for second, with home representative René Stellingwerff struggling for pace at the back. Franz Zorn won the All-European Heat 3 to join his Russian rivals at the top of the leaderboard. The main race action was the battle for second, where Niklas Svensson had looked comfortable in the early stages before making an error and coming under late pressure from Ove Ledstrom. Ledstrom attempted to take the place up the inside coming off turn 2, but Svensson held firm and joined father Stefan Svensson within the top 8 positions after getting the verdict for second in a photo finish. Egor Miškovec had a surprisingly subdued start to the meeting, somewhere adrift of his race-leading compatriots Dmitry Koltykov and Dmitry Gomitsevich. Battling from the back, Miškovec took the best part of 4 laps to pass Günther Bauer, who left too much room into the pit's bend for the final time and left the door open to his rival. Good racing and all over a single point. Dmitry Gomitsevich ended round 1, the only beaten member of the championship's top quartet. A strong start to the match for Max Niedermayer and Niklas Svensson, with youngsters Ove Ledstrom and Egor Miškovec looking to recover from disappointing opening rides. Victory for Koltykov over Gomitsevich had forced a tie at the top of the championship classification after round 1. Gomitsevich capitalised on an inside gate in Heat 5 to restore his position. Daniil Ivanov chased hard to take the victory himself, darting to the outside and switching back off the turns. Gomitsevich maintained track position and commanded his racing line to hold on well. Ivanov finally lost ground on the last lap, dropping to his first defeat of the meeting. Amsiako scored just 1 point all weekend in Assen, as his struggles continue from 17th in the championship standings. The Finn was at his most competitive in Heat 6, but eventually dropped back from second with first Daniel Henderson, and then Stefan Pletschaka finding a way past. Henderson was unable to make up any further ground on takes the flag winner Günther Bauer, who recovered from a first ride last place to victory. Niklas Svensson moved above Stefan Svensson inside the top 8 after picking up second place ahead of his father in Heat 7. And fellow Swede Ove Ledstrom impressed early in Heat 8 before being gradually pushed aside by 2 of the sport's Russian stars. Igor Kononov found a way past on lap 1, while Egor Miškovec worked his way through from the back. Around the pits turn on lap 2, the Russian launched for an outside move and swept through for 2 points. The top 4 in the championship occupied the lead positions after 8 heats in Assen. 4 riders sat on 3 points in the last of the provisional qualification positions, with Egor Miškovec and Günther Bauer both moving forward in the second round of heat races. Egor Miškovec went 3 rides without a race victory after he was beaten by fellow countryman Daniil Ivanov in his round 3 heat. Miškovec had his hands full with Niklas Svensson, who put in another strong ride and enjoyed an entertaining Heat 9 battle. After Miškovec had fought through from the back, Svensson had surprised his rival by recovering second place on lap 2. The Russian put in the same move a lap later, but covered across the front of the Swede to secure the points. Sweden's representatives continue to provide the entertainment, as Ove Ledstrom put in a strong ride to get the better of Daniel Henderson in Heat 10. The result moved Ledstrom level on points with his fellow countryman, just outside the top 8. Frans Zorn took an impressive second race victory in his third ride, as he put another dent in Igor Kononov's championship challenge and inflicted his first defeat of the day in Heat 11. Stefan Svensson put in an excellent ride against Jan Klatowski to remain in the top 8, with 2 valuable points behind Dmitry Komitsevich at the end of round 3. Klatowski pushed hard on the inside, but Svensson was unperturbed as he continued to run wider and defensively claim the racing line. Stefan Svensson and Egor Miškovec moved into the top 8 after 3 rounds of heat races at the expense of Günther Bauer. A single point score for the German in Heat 11 left him one of 3 main challengers for the final qualification positions, along with Ove Ledstrom and Daniel Henderson on 4. Bauer went into direct competition with his semi-final challengers Ledstrom and Svensson in Heat 13, but the German failed to make an impression. Instead, it was Ove Ledstrom who took a second consecutive second place, restricting Svensson to 3rd on the opening lap and relegating Bauer to the back. Dmitry Komitsevich took a 3rd straight victory as he became the 2nd rider to get the better of Igor Kononov. Both Russians booked their semi-final spaces by relegating Niklas Svensson to 3rd. Daniel Henderson suffered his first non-scoring ride at the back. René Stellingwerff picked up his first point of the afternoon at the expense of fellow countryman Simon Reitzma in Heat 15. Reitzma came in to replace Antiako and held 3rd until lap 2, when the wildcard came past for the single point. Dmitry Koltakov continued his unbeaten run with a 4th victory at the close of round 4. Frans Zorn booked his semi-final space with a 2nd position finish ahead of Jan Klatowski and Stefan Pletschaka. There would be no repeat of the Germans' Day 1 heroics in the 2nd meeting of the weekend. The top 5 had guaranteed their qualification positions with a round of heats to spare, Egor Miškovec waiting on his final ride to seal a semi-final space. Last place finishes for Günther Bauer and Daniel Henderson in round 4 dropped them 2 points back from the qualification pace, heading into the final 4 heats. Bauer lined up off gate 2 in Heat 17, needing a win and other race results to fall his way to progress. The German fought hard for the place, under pressure from Niklas Svensson after making the start. The Swede ran around the outside line, Bauer trying to force himself alongside and stop Svensson from getting to the curb. Svensson needed victory to guarantee progression, and busting a gut in an attempt to recover, went down on lap 3. Disqualification left the Swede out of the running for the semi-finals after such a promising start. Bauer again led the restart. His chances of qualifying improved after Svensson's disqualification, but again the race was stopped after a fall for René Stellingwerff at the back. A challenging weekend for the Dutchman, with just 2 points to his name on his championship return. Bauer finally registered his 2nd race victory of the day in the restart, and now in a strong position for tiebreaks, would wait on the result of Stefan Svensson in Heat 18 to determine progression. The Swede needed 2nd place to beat the Germans' points tally and held the position until the final lap. Egor Miškovec had left himself with a lot of work after coming from the back, only passing Daniel Henderson for 3rd on lap 2. He eventually picked off Svensson on lap 4, leaving the veteran precariously placed in 8th, and Ove Ledstrom just a point behind with a ride in hand. Ledstrom picked up 2nd to progress at the expense of his fellow countryman. The main battle in Heat 19 was over 3rd. Stefan Pletschaka passed Max Niedermayer for the single point on lap 2, and the race was settled from there. Dmitry Koltagov worked hard to complete his 5-ride heat maximum, overhauling Igor Kononov for victory in Heat 20. Kononov then slipped into the clutches of Daniil Ivanov, who found his way through on the final lap to take second. Kononov seemed to struggle for pace throughout the weekend and finished the heat's bottom of the championship contenders on 11. Heat 17 victory extended Günther Bauer's day thanks to the disqualification of Niklas Svensson from the same race. Stefan Svensson missed out on countback. Stefan Pletschaka another heat casualty after his day 1 semi-final appearance. Three of the top 4 Russians have been seeded to the second semi-final. A perfect opportunity then for Franz Zorn to try to become the first Western European finalist this season. Dmitry Koltagov goes off gate 1 in red, unbeaten in the heat stages, the pre-race favourite. On paper, the battle here should be over second. Franz Zorn goes off gate 2 in blue, Egor Mishkovets off gate 3 in white, and Ove Ledstrom completes the lineup off the outside. Down to the first turn with Koltagov picking up the whole shot. Franz Zorn is there on the inside in second. Mishkovets blocking out Ove Ledstrom, the Swede, yet to win a heat here today and doesn't look set to add any points from this one from last place. Mishkovets, though, is coming after Zorn. That's the main expected battle of this first semi-final for second and third positions. Zorn trying to cover the line. Mishkovets will cut back, has the inside going into the top turn, but Zorn covers it, and then Mishkovets bobbles precariously into turn 3, almost heads into the bales. He's out of shape, he's out of control, trying desperately hard to get on terms with Franz Zorn here, and that's making Mishkovets erratic, and if anything, it's costing him speed and costing him time. Zorn now moving wider, risking leaving the inside to Mishkovets. It's a dangerous approach because the Russian is almost alongside into the closing stages. Zorn covers back to the inside. Mishkovets goes for the cutback. The Russian pulls through. Brilliant riding once again from the youngster. More overtaking Speedway from Egor Mishkovets, who will take second place on the final lap to deny Franz Zorn the opportunity to become the first Western European finalist of 2016. The Austrian is devastated, eliminated with a single point from the first semi-final, along with Ove Ledstrom out at the back. The race victory and progression to Dmitry Koltagov, second, and also moving through Egor Mishkovets. The lineup for the second semi-final. Dmitry Kometsevich goes off the inside in red. 4 wins in succession coming into the semi-finals. Gate 2 in blue, it's Daniil Ivanov. A full 7 points down on Dmitry Koltagov now in the standings. Has this race in hand and needs to take advantage of it. Kononov and Bauer completing the lineup. Semi-final 2. Good start off the inside from Kometsevich. Ivanov will switch straight back to the curb, tries to drill a move. Down the back straight, the 2-run level into the top turn. It's now Kometsevich on the outside. Ivanov on the inside pulling through. Brilliant ride there from Daniil Ivanov. Second place with Kometsevich. He'll burst back to the inside and try to repay the compliment. But Ivanov has the speed up by the bales to lead in the opening half of this, the second semi-final. Dmitry Kometsevich needs a win here to return to the top of the championship, but it looks as though he's going to be denied by Daniil Ivanov, who has plenty of pace once again here in Assen, and Kometsevich getting a little bit out of shape there as he skirts the safety fence down the back straight and then bobbles back into the top turn. Ivanov pulling well clear. The positions look settled now, with Ivanov in front, Kometsevich in second looking over his shoulder. Igor Kononov back in third. This probably was one of his last chances to get back into the title race. Really needed an additional ride here today after struggling to just 11 during the heat stages, but he will be eliminated along with Günther Bauer. A disappointing first semi-final appearance of the season for the German after 2 wins during the heat stages. Bauer and Kononov then eliminated. Ivanov after that lap 1 pass, moving on with Dmitry Kometsevich to the final. So after the elimination of Igor Kononov, the top 3 in the title race line up with another opportunity to score championship points. Dmitry Koltakov goes off the inside gate in red, the current championship leader. A victory here would leave him at least 2 points in front with 2 meetings remaining. Gate 2 in blue is with Daniil Ivanov, third in the standings, looking for a second win of the campaign to close the 4-point championship deficit. Gate 3 in white is Dmitry Kometsevich, 1 point down now on Koltakov, the only rider to have won 3 meetings this season, and Egor Mishkovets goes off the outside gate in yellow. Good start off Gate 3 from Dmitry Kometsevich. He's become the master of making the starts in the final. Daniil Ivanov looking straight back to the inside as he did in the semi-final, but this time it's covered off aggressively by Dmitry Koltakov, and Ivanov, I think, may have even clipped the back wheel of Dmitry Koltakov there on lap number 1. Ivanov looking for a different way past then, trying now to move up towards the outside line. Egor Mishkovets out at the back, but well and truly on the pace of the front 3 as he looks for his first ever meeting podium in World Championship Ice Speedway. Gets out of control there coming out of turn number 4. Still his race is to try and get the better of Daniil Ivanov. 2 battles in 1 developing here as Dmitry Koltakov looks for a way past Dmitry Kometsevich, but it looks as though the number 919 is set to take a second consecutive meeting victory here in Assen. It's going to be a double bonanza for Dmitry Kometsevich, but he is under so much pressure now late on. Starting to hold back Dmitry Koltakov, and that's going to enable Ivanov to get back in the race as well. It's going to be a blanket finish. Oh, so close over the line for second and third places in particular. Dmitry Kometsevich was holding back Koltakov there, and Daniil Ivanov gained ground on the last 2 laps, but I sense he just fell short, and it's going to be Kometsevich, Koltakov and Ivanov, the final podium positions on day 2 in Assen. Another brilliant tapes the flag win. Dmitry Kometsevich just seems to be able to pull out these starts when it matters the most, and he's done the job again on day 2 in Assen. Dmitry Kometsevich takes a 4th victory of the season, a 2nd in succession, but it's Dmitry Koltakov who finishes top scorer and regains his 1-point championship deficit. Today was similar to yesterday, both third places, and at this point that isn't really enough. The top 4 riders are now so strong that if you miss the start you can easily get stuck behind. That's what happened both today and yesterday. But I still have 2 opportunities to do my best and get first place.
Все возможное, чтобы выигрывать с максимальным количеством очков оба дня, и, может быть, тогда еще можно о первом месте.
Today was a better day than yesterday, and I was lucky with the result that I got in the final. Unfortunately, I've dropped 1 point, but I didn't want to take too many risks in the final, just guarantee the position I had from the start. Now I'm looking forward to Insel.
Чтобы не ошибиться, старался удержать позицию и сделал это. И мотоцикл отработал сегодня на 100%. Спасибо моей команде, моей семье и болельщикам за поддержку. Спасибо огромное.
I'm very happy with first place, but of course I still have to fight in Insel. Today I dropped 2 points, but tried to forget about that before the start of the final and win. I succeeded in that, but I'll still need to get back those points to become world champion in Insel.
Будем подготавливаться, я физически, механики будут технически. Постараюсь в Инцеле сделать все возможное.
Franz Zorn moves to within 5 points of his target 5th position, while Ove Ledstrom pulls a point further ahead of Stefan Svensson in the battle for 7th. Gunther Bauer and Nicholas Svensson seem to have sewn their place within the top 10, and will now fight amongst themselves for 9th in Insel. But at the top of the championship, 3 riders still have realistic ambitions of taking the title, and are separated by just 5 points. The momentum is with Assen's double winner, Dmitry Kometsevich.